We decided to tap this woods out here this year just so that we had a test woods, so we could test new tubings, display all of our different products that we sell in the pipeline system, all the different colored drop lines, the different colored lateral lines, and different types of main lines, along with different fittings. We've got a little bit of everything out here, so come on in and we'll show it to you. Okay, around the base of the tree, and the sap really is not going to run until that snow begins to melt around the tree, because the snow keeps the tree frozen if it's tight. So this has started to melt around the trees here. It shouldn't be long now. We should have some sap here this weekend. We decided to lay the system out on this. It's a very flat woods, very difficult one to lay out. We have two high points in the woods. We decided to put the wet and dry line system on one of the points, and then lay our system out from there, grading each main line using a site level, so that every one of them has a small amount of grade coming back. And that'll make your system function. It'll transfer vacuum using this air line, which you can transfer vacuum miles if you have the correct size air line to do so. The wet line on the bottom does nothing but transfer sap back to the releaser or the sugar house if you're lucky enough for it to go back there. The top line transports just vacuum, air. This is your main line that goes out through on the side hill. This line boosts the vacuum to this line, so that the sap is actually able to go by it and transfer the vacuum out on your woods. We place a valve on this end here on the main line, so that if you have a problem out on this line and you want to determine which main line it's on, all you need to do is turn this valve off, and with a vacuum gauge you can tell where if your vacuum comes up that your problem is on this line. Once you fix your problem, you can open your line right back up and the sap will come right down the line again. Real good system. So we've got to get the sap back to the wet and dry line over there, transported by a main line. So we extended this main line out over this low spot and then put in another main line on a grade so that everything comes to this fitting on the end, which we call a spider. And there's 6 5/16 lines that come into that, transport vacuum and air and liquid to this top one up here and brings it back. And it's light enough, and the air mixes in coming from the tap holes, which the tap hole gives off CO2. So it mixes in and allows it to lift up this line. They work really, really well in the right situation. And this is a very shallow lift. You can lift up to 15 feet in distance and elevation. The reason that we have the high tensile wire is to support the main lines, because they're very heavy when they get full of sap, and you would end up with sags in the line. And when you have sags in the line and sap in the line, the sap being heavy would freeze in that line in the low spots. And it could be halfway through the next day, which could be a good sap run, and you would get nothing out of that line. So by supporting it by these wires, it increases your production a lot. Every main line coming off the wet and dry line system has a high tensile wire and is side tied in places to keep it taut. All of those things add in the production. Okay, well, the first thing that we do is we try to locate a good spot to tap the tree. And you want to make sure that you're 6 inches one side or the other, or a foot above and below the old tap hole that's in the tree. We're fortunate with this tree, it doesn't look like it's ever been tapped. So we're going to tap it right up in this direction up here. Try to keep your bit as level as possible. Make sure your tap hole is clean. And your spout is right side up. Pound until you hear the a solid sound, that tells you that your spout is tight in the tree. From here, you work your way right down the line. We can also tap. You want to utilize your entire tapping band on the tree, which is roughly this. And it does not hurt to tap below this lateral line. This spout could have been tapped here. So if there's an old tap hole in this tree, we want to make sure we don't tap near it. Here's an old tap hole right here. Very difficult to see it, but it's grown over really well. So I think this one we'll tap below the lateral line because it's easy to drill.
Right here?
Yeah. You want to try drilling it? You want to try to keep the drill as level, keep the bit as level as possible. Good. Perfect. Perfect.
All right.
Now the next step is, like I mentioned earlier there before.
Pointing down.
Yeah, make sure that the spout is tipping down. And drive it in the tree until you hear it really tight. There you go. Now you're tight. You hear that tunk at the end, you know your spout is seated in. Good job.
First tap.
Yeah.
All right.
Look at that.